You have made a big mistake.
But I didn't make a mistake, I swear.
Quiet down and keep moving.
You must comply with our demands right now.
The smell hit him before the lid even lifted. Not the kind of smell you get from reheated airline food. Not overcooked, not bland. This was rot, sour, heavy, wrong. Nathan Brooks didn't touch the silver lid right away. He just looked at it. Still, like he was weighing something bigger than lunch. Around him, first class moved on like nothing had happened. Crystal glasses clinked softly. A man 2 rows back swirled red wine, studying its color under warm cabin lights. A woman flipped through a Wall Street journal, each page whispering as it turned. Low laughter drifted, controlled, polished, expensive, everything exactly as it should be. Except seat 1 and a Megan Carter set the tray down in front of Nathan with a dull thud. Not rude enough to call out, but not right either. There you go. Short, flat, already turning away. No eye contact, no pause, no care. Nathan didn't call her back. Didn't frown, didn't react. He lifted the lid slow. The smell surged. The chicken sat there, gray and lifeless. Along the edges, patches of blue-green mold clung like frost. The spinach underneath glistened in a way that had nothing to do with oil. It looked like something forgotten, or something chosen. Nathan paused for a second. No reaction. Across the aisle, an elderly woman lowered her pencil. Margaret Ellis, 72, sharp eyes, the kind that noticed things others ignored. She took a small breath. Her brow tightened. "Honey, everything all right over there?" Nathan looked up. His expression gave nothing away, just thinking, quiet, even, controlled. Margaret studied him a moment longer, then nodded slowly. But she didn't go back to her crossword. 2 rows behind, a man wrinkled his nose. Jesus, barely above a whisper. But enough, something shifted in the cabin, subtle, almost invisible, but real. Up front, Megan leaned against the stainless steel counter in the galley, arms crossed, watching. A flicker of satisfaction crossed her face. She knew exactly what she had served. Beside her, Lily, the younger attendant, leaned closer. "You actually gave him that?" Megan didn't look at her. It was what we had left, calm, dismissive. Lily glanced towards seat 1A, then back. "That came from the discard bin, right?" Megan turned her head slowly, her eyes hardened. "You planning to write a report?" Lily froze, no answer. Just a swallow. A quiet step back, hands busy with folded napkins that didn't need folding. Back in seat 1A, Nathan placed the lid gently to the side, careful, precise, like he was handling evidence. He didn't press the call button, didn't complain, didn't create a scene. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone. The black screen caught the cabin light, reflected his face. Calm, steady, click, close shot. The mold, click, wider, the tray, the seat number, the edge of his boarding pass. Click, further back, Megan in the background, laughing with another passenger. Nathan didn't stop. He switched to video, slow movement, controlled. The camera passed over the tray, zoomed in, held on the mold, on the unnatural sheen of the spinach. No shaking, no hesitation. Across the aisle, Margaret lowered her glasses completely now. Her eyes widened. "Well, I'll be damned." Nathan ended the recording, set the phone down. Still untouched food in front of him. Still no words. But now people were watching. More than before. Margaret didn't go back to her puzzle. The man behind shifted in his seat. Someone else leaned slightly into the aisle. The smell had already done its work, and now the silence was doing the rest. Nathan leaned back into the leather seat, hands resting lightly on the armrests, breathing even. On the surface, nothing had changed, but inside, something had. Not anger, not frustration, recognition, a pattern he had seen too many times. Restaurants where the bill was handed to someone else. Meetings where people assumed he didn't belong. Rooms where judgment came before words, all of it starting the same way. A glance, a decision, a quiet dismissal. 35,000 feet above the ground. Prejudice still found a way to breathe. Nathan looked straight ahead, no tension in his shoulders, no rush in his movements. But the decision had already been made, not when he opened the tray. When Megan turned her back, that was the moment. He didn't say it, didn't show it, but it was there. The man in seat 1A wasn't just another passenger. And that tray of spoiled food wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And someone had just made the wrong one. 20 minutes passed before Megan Carter came back down the aisle. By then, the cabin had changed. Not loudly, not enough for someone in the back to notice, but in first class, people felt it. The easy laughter had thinned. The wine glasses were still full, but hands held them differently now. A little tighter, a little lower. The smell from the tray had faded, but memory has its own odor. It stayed in the air. Nathan Brooks sat still in seat 1A. The tray remained open in front of him, untouched. Megan noticed that first. Her eyes dropped to the plate, then to Nathan, then to the phone lying flat beside the tray. For a moment, her smile paused, only for a moment. Then it came back sharper. "Oh," she said, stopping beside him. "Not to your liking?" Nathan looked up slowly. He had the calm of a man who had spent years learning not to give careless people the reaction they wanted. No raised voice, no clenched jaw, just a steady look. Megan tilted her head, enjoying the attention from the passengers nearby. Some people just don't have the palate for first-class dining. A nervous chuckle came from somewhere behind them. Not because it was funny, because some people laugh when they are afraid to take a side. Margaret Ellis heard it. Her pencil stopped moving. She looked over her glasses at Megan, and the softness in her face disappeared. Nathan said nothing at first. He glanced once at the great chicken, once at the shining spinach. Then back at Megan. "You served this to me." Megan's smile did not move. "I served what catering provided." Her voice was clean, professional. The kind of voice people use when they know the rules well enough to hide behind them. Nathan nodded slightly. The nod was not agreement, it was documentation. Megan reached for the tray, but Nathan placed 2 fingers lightly on the edge. Not hard, just enough. "Please leave it there." Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me? Leave it there?" he repeated. "For now." The words landed quietly, but the air around them tightened. A businessman in row 2 lowered his glass. His name was Charles Whitford, and he had spent most of his life avoiding conflict in expensive places. He stared at the tray, then looked away. His conscience moved, but not his mouth. Megan leaned closer. The perfume on her uniform mixed badly with the sour trace of spoiled food. "Sir, if you have a complaint, you may file it after landing." Nathan looked at her name tag, Megan Carter. Then he looked back into her eyes. "I know how complaints work." Something flickered across her face. Recognition, irritation, a small crack in the polished mask. "Do you?" "Yes." Megan straightened. "Then you know they don't get very far when passengers exaggerate." Margaret finally spoke. "That food is not an exaggeration." Her voice was quiet, but old age had given it a kind of authority youth often mistakes for weakness. Megan turned toward her. "Mom, I'm sure you don't have the full context." Margaret's eyes hardened. "I have a nose." The cabin went silent. A man coughed into his napkin. Lily, standing near the galley, looked down quickly. But Nathan saw her hands. They were shaking. Megan's face tightened. "Of course, Mom. I'll be happy to bring you anything you need." The warmth returned only for Margaret. Not real warmth, service warmth, the kind taught in training manuals. Then Megan turned back to Nathan. "As for you, Mr. Brooks, I suggest you let the crew do its job." Nathan's expression did not change. "And what job is that?" Megan stared. For the first time, she did not answer right away. The engines hummed beneath the floor, a deep, constant sound, like distant thunder held inside metal. Nathan reached for his laptop bag beside the seat. He opened it and removed a slim, black laptop. Megan gave a small laugh. "What are you going to do? Write a bad review?" A few years earlier, that line might have angered him. Not now. Now, it clarified everything. Nathan opened the laptop. The screen lit his face in pale blue, calm lines, dark eyes. A man who had been underestimated so many times that he had learned to move like still water. Megan lowered her voice. "I've worked premium routes for 15 years, sweetheart. People complain. People threaten. Then they land, get busy, and move on." Nathan looked up at the word sweetheart. No one else might have heard the contempt inside it. But he did. So did Lily. So did Margaret. Megan continued, softer now, crueler now. "Maybe next time, when you upgrade from coach, You'll understand that first class has standards. Nathan's finger stopped above the keyboard. The cabin seemed to hold its breath. There it was, not hidden anymore, not implied, said plainly enough for the people nearby to hear, but softly enough for Megan to deny later. Nathan looked at her for a long moment. He saw the confidence in her posture, the seniority, the practiced power of someone who believed a uniform gave her permission to decide who mattered. Then he began typing, slowly. Megan watched his fingers move. To her, it looked like pride, like a man trying to look important. To Lily, it looked different. It looked controlled, dangerously controlled. Rachel from Fro 3, a retired school principal with silver hair and steady eyes, leaned toward her husband and whispered, "That man is not bluffing." Her husband glanced up. "How do you know?" "Because men who are bluffing talk louder." Nathan attached the photos. 1, 2, 3, then the video. He did not rush. He did not look around for approval. Megan crossed her arms, but her weight shifted slightly. Her confidence was still there, but something small had entered it now. Unease. Nathan typed a name into the recipient line. Andrew Whitman, Chief Executive Officer, Crown Pacific Airlines. Megan could not see the screen from where she stood, but Lily could from the angle near the galley. Her face went pale. She knew that name. Every employee knew that name. Andrew Whitman's photograph hung in training centers, crew offices, and break rooms across the country. Megan noticed Lily's expression.
"What?"
she snapped. Lily said nothing. Nathan finished the subject line. Urgent passenger safety issue on Flight 712. He paused. Only then did he look back at Megan. There was no anger in his eyes. That made it worse. "You're right," he said quietly. Megan blinked. "About what?" Nathan's gaze dropped to the tray. "This deserves attention." Then he pressed send. A soft whoosh sounded from the laptop. Tiny, almost nothing. But Margaret heard it. Lily heard it. Megan heard it too. And although she did not yet understand what had happened, something in her chest tightened. Nathan closed the laptop halfway, leaned back, and looked out the window. Outside, the clouds stretched endless and white beneath the late afternoon sun. Inside, Megan Carter stood in the aisle with a smile that no longer fit her face. For the first time since boarding, she wondered if the man in the hoodie had not been trying to belong. Maybe he had been watching. Maybe he had been waiting. And maybe the mistake had never been his. The email left Nathan Brooks's laptop in less than a second, but the silence after it felt heavier than the aircraft itself. Megan Carter stood in the aisle, tray still in front of her, fingers resting on the cart handle. For the first time, she did not move. She looked at Nathan, then at Lily, then back at Nathan.
"What did you just send?"
Nathan looked out the window, a complaint. His voice was calm enough to make the word sound smaller than it was. Megan gave a short laugh, but it came out dry.
"To who?"
Nathan turned his head slightly. The correct person, that was all. No explanation, no threat, no raised voice. Just 4 quiet words. Megan's smile came back, but it was thinner now. She reached for the tray again. "Sir, I need to clear service." Nathan placed his hand lightly over his phone. "The tray stays." Her eyes flashed. "That is not your decision." Margaret Ellis leaned forward across the aisle. "It is if it made him sick." Megan snapped her head toward Margaret. For a second, the mask slipped. The warm first-class smile disappeared, and something hard showed underneath. "Mom, please don't involve yourself." Margaret held her gaze. "I already am involved." I breathed it in. The businessman in row 2 shifted. Charles Whitford cleared his throat. His hand moved toward his wine glass, then away from it. He looked at Nathan and finally spoke. "She's right. That food should be documented." Megan stared at him as if betrayal had come from the wrong direction. "Mr. Whitford, I assure you we have internal procedures." Charles gave a small, uncomfortable nod. He had lived long enough to know the cost of saying too little too late, then use them. The words were quiet, but they mattered. Nathan noticed. Not every act of courage was loud. Sometimes it was a man with a soft voice deciding not to look away. Megan's cheeks tightened. Her fingers gripped the cart handle harder. Lily stepped closer from the galley, holding a small plastic evidence bag used for broken glass or contaminated items. She held it low, almost hidden against her skirt. Rachel from row 3 saw it. Margaret saw it too. Megan saw it last. "What are you doing?" Megan asked. Lily stopped. Her face was pale, but her voice was steadier than before. "If there's a possible food safety issue, we're supposed to preserve the item and file a cabin report." The cabin went still. Megan's eyes narrowed. "You don't lecture me on procedure." "I'm not lecturing you."
Then what are you doing?
Lily swallowed. "My job." The words hung there. Simple. Dangerous. Megan stepped closer to her. "You've been here 6 months. Lily's fingers tightened around the bag. "Yes. I've been here 15 years, I know." "Then act like you know." Lily looked down for one breath. When she looked back up, there was fear in her eyes. But there was also something else. A line had been crossed. "I do know," she said softly. "That's why I'm worried."
Megan's jaw moved.
She wanted to cut her down, wanted to remind her who controls schedules, routes, recommendations, friendships, the hidden machinery of workplace power, but she could feel the passengers watching now. Too many eyes, too many phones, too much silence. Nathan closed his laptop the rest of the way. The soft click sounded like punctuation. Megan turned back to him.
You think this is going somewhere?
Nathan did not answer. That irritated her more than defiance. She leaned closer, lowering her voice so the back of the cabin could not hear, though Margaret still could. "People make accusations all the time, Mr. Brooks, especially people who don't understand how aviation works." Nathan looked at her. "Aviation works because people follow standards." Megan froze. For half a second, that sentence landed somewhere she did not expect. Nathan continued. "Food safety is a standard. Passenger dignity is a standard. Not humiliating someone because of how they dress should be a standard, too." Margaret's face softened. Charles looked down. Lily blinked quickly, as if those words had touched something she had been trying not to feel. Megan straightened. "You're twisting this." "No," Nathan said. "You served it. Short, clean, unavoidable." Megan's mouth opened, then closed. The captain's voice came over the intercom before she could speak. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're cruising smoothly at altitude. We expect to begin our descent into Los Angeles in a little over 3 hours. Please relax and enjoy the flight." The calm announcement floated over a cabin that no longer felt calm at all. Megan took the tray without permission. Nathan did not stop her this time, but Lily stepped in.
"Megan, don't throw it away."
Megan turned slowly. "Excuse me?" Lily's voice trembled, but she held her ground. "If you discard it now, that becomes part of the report, too." Megan stared at her. For one cold second, Lily thought she might be fired before the plane landed. Then Nathan spoke. "She's right." Megan looked back at him, and that made her angrier than anything else. Because now it was not just the man in the hoodie. Now it was the old woman, the businessman, the junior attendant, a circle of witnesses. Megan placed the tray onto the service cart with a controlled slap. "Fine." The word cut through the air. Then she pushed the cart forward, shoulders tight, steps sharp. Lily followed, still holding the plastic bag. In the galley, the metal curtain rattled as Megan yanked it, halfway closed.
"What is wrong with you?"
Megan hissed. Lily stood near the counter, heart pounding. "That tray was unsafe." "You don't know that. It smelled rotten." Megan leaned in. "Listen to me carefully. Passengers like him love creating drama. They take one little thing and turn it into a lawsuit. You think he cares about safety? He wants attention." Lily glanced through the gap in the curtain. Nathan sat still, looking out at the clouds. He did not look like a man seeking attention. He looked like a man allowing truth to catch up. Lily lowered her voice.
"What if he really knows someone?"
Megan scoffed. "He doesn't." "How do you know?" Megan's smile returned, ugly now, because men who matter make sure everyone knows it. Lily said nothing. She thought of Nathan's calm, his careful photos, the names she had glimpsed on the email, Andrew Whitman. Her stomach tightened. Back in seat 1A, Nathan's phone vibrated softly against the tray table. Once. Then again. He turned it over, a new email. The sender's name appeared on the screen. Andrew Whitman. Nathan opened it, only one sentence. "Nathan, I'll be standing at gate 14 when your aircraft lands. Do not leave the jet bridge." Nathan read it once, then again. His expression did not change. but Margaret saw his fingers still for a moment. She leaned toward him. You heard back, didn't you? Nathan looked at her. Yes, Mom. Margaret studied his face. Someone important? Nathan's eyes returned to the window, where the clouds burned white beneath the sun. Important enough. In the galley, Megan laughed at something on her phone. Lily did not laugh. She looked down at the sealed tray, at the mold, at the food no passenger should have been served, and for the first time since takeoff, she understood something that made her breath catch. This was no longer about lunch. It was about proof, and proof had a way of surviving longer than power. By the time the aircraft crossed into the western sky, the first-class cabin had become a room full of people pretending not to wait. No one said it out loud, but they were waiting. Waiting for Nathan Brooks to react, waiting for Megan Carter to explain herself, waiting for the sealed tray in the galley to become more than a quiet stain on the flight. The sun had dropped lower outside the windows, turning the clouds orange at the edges. The cabin lights dimmed to a soft gold. It should have felt peaceful, expensive, safe. Instead, every small sound felt sharpened. A seatbelt clicked. A glass touched a tray table. A page turned too loudly. Nathan sat in seat 1A with his laptop closed on his lap. His phone rested beside it, face down. He had not spoken since reading Andrew Whitman's message. That calm bothered Megan more than anger would have. Angry passengers were easy. They gave you something to use against them. A raised voice, a harsh word, a gesture that could be written into a report as aggressive behavior. Nathan gave her nothing. No scene, no threat, no mistake. Megan stood in the galley, staring at him through the narrow gap in the curtain. Lily placed the sealed tray inside a lower storage compartment and closed it with a soft click. Megan turned. Why are you treating that like evidence? Lily kept her hand on the latch. Because it might be. Megan laughed once.
You've been watching too many crime shows.
Lily did not smile. Megan stepped closer, lowering her voice. Listen to me. You are not helping yourself. You think corporate cares about one passenger whining over a bad meal? They care about on-time arrivals, premium satisfaction, and not letting small things become big things. Lily looked at her. A moldy meal is not small. Megan's eyes hardened. It is when no one eats it. The words came out before she could stop them. Lily went still. Megan saw it. The mistake, the tiny opening. She straightened quickly. You know what I mean? No, Lily said softly. I don't think I do. Megan reached for her phone and looked down at it, pretending the conversation had ended. But it had not ended. It had moved. Down the aisle, Margaret Ellis had been watching everything with the quiet patience of someone who had seen too much to be easily fooled. She closed her crossword book and slipped it into the seat pocket. Then she leaned toward Nathan. May I ask you something? Nathan turned to her.
Of course.
Are you all right? The question was simple, but not casual. Nathan paused. For the first time since the tray appeared, something in his face softened. Yes, Mom, I'm all right. Margaret nodded, but her eyes stayed on him. That's not what I asked. Nathan looked at her for another moment. Then he let out a small breath, almost a laugh, but without humor. I've been in rooms like this before. Margaret understood before he explained. Rooms where people decide what you are before you say your name. Nathan's eyes shifted to the window.
Yes.
Margaret folded her hands over the crossword. My husband was a pilot for 30 years. He used to say a cabin shows people's character faster than almost any place on earth. You put strangers in a narrow space, give some of them better seats, uniforms, titles, and then watch who forgets everybody is still human. Nathan turned back toward her. Your husband sounds like a wise man. He was, and stubborn. That brought the faintest smile to Nathan's face. Margaret smiled too, but it faded quickly. What she did was wrong. Nathan nodded. Yes, and quiet doesn't make wrong disappear. That sentence settled between them, slow, heavy, healing in a way neither of them expected. Nathan had spent much of his life learning to stay composed. It had protected him. It had opened doors. It had kept rooms from turning against him. But sometimes composure had a cost. It made other people comfortable with your pain. Margaret's voice lowered. You don't have to make yourself small to prove you're good. Nathan looked at her. For a second, the cabin disappeared. The engines, the leather seats, the polished service, all of it. There was just an old woman telling a younger man the truth. "Thank you," Nathan said. He meant it. The plane gave a small tremor as it crossed a patch of rough air. Glasses shivered. A few passengers gripped their armrests. The seatbelt sign chimed overhead. In the galley, Megan grabbed the counter. Lily steadied herself against the cart. The turbulence passed quickly, but the tension did not. A message appeared on the crew tablet mounted near the galley. Megan saw it first. Her eyes narrowed. Cabin safety inquiry pending. Preserve all service items related to passenger seat 1A. Do not discard. Report upon arrival. She read it twice. Then a third time. Her face changed. Not fear yet. Resistance. She tapped the screen as if pressure could erase the words. Lily stepped close enough to see. Her lips parted. Corporate already knows. Megan shot her a look. You don't know who sent that. Lily looked at the tablet again. It says cabin safety inquiry. Megan lowered her voice to a hiss. And you will say exactly what happened. Catering error. Tray noticed after service. Preserved immediately. No passenger harmed. Lily stared at her. That's not exactly what happened. Megan stepped so close Lily could smell mint on her breath. It is if you want to keep working this route. Lily's throat tightened. There it was. The threat. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just workplace power delivered in a whisper behind the eye curtain. For a moment, Lily looked like the younger woman she was. New. Frightened. A mortgage application pending. Student loans still taking small bites out of every paycheck. A career she had dreamed about since childhood. Megan knew all of that and used it. Say it, Megan whispered. Lily looked past her, through the gap, at Nathan. He was not looking at them. He was looking at the window, unaware of the battle happening 10 feet away. That made Lily's decision harder and clearer. She spoke quietly.
No.
Megan blinked.
What did you say?
Lily's hands were shaking now, but her voice did not break. I won't lie in a safety report. Megan stared at her as if she had slapped her. You have no idea what you're doing. Lily breathed in. Maybe not. But I know what I saw. The cabin intercom clicked again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. We've started our initial descent planning into Los Angeles. We'll be on the ground in a little over an hour. Please remain seated while the seatbelt sign is on. Los Angeles. 1 hour. The words seemed to move through the cabin like a countdown. Megan looked towards seat 1A. Nathan sat still. Too still. Her phone vibrated in her hand. A text from an unknown company number appeared. Megan Carter, report to airline operations immediately upon arrival. Do not leave the aircraft area until released. Her mouth went dry. Lily saw her face. What is it? Megan locked the phone. Nothing. But it was not nothing. Her breath had changed. Shorter. Sharper. In seat 1A, Nathan finally turned away from the window. He picked up his phone and read Andrew Whitman's message one more time. Gate 14. Do not leave the jet bridge. He placed the phone back down. Outside, the sun was sinking behind the clouds. Inside, a woman who thought she controlled the cabin was beginning to understand the cabin had witnesses. And somewhere ahead, on the ground in Los Angeles, accountability was already waiting. The lights of Los Angeles appeared beneath the clouds like a second sky turned upside down. Gold streets, white headlights, red brake lights. A city stretching in every direction, bright and restless, waiting under the dark. The captain's voice came through the cabin speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we are beginning our descent into Los Angeles International Airport. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for arrival. Seat backs moved upright. Laptop screens closed. Seatbelts clicked across first class with small metallic snaps. Nathan Brooks remained still in seat 1A. His hands rested on his knees. His laptop was packed away. His phone was in his palm, screen dark. He looked out the window as the city grew sharper below. Megan Carter moved through the aisle with practiced precision, but the smoothness was gone. Her smile still appeared for certain passengers, but it came a half-second late. Her hands were too tight around the seat checks. Her breath was shallow. Mr. Whitford, seat upright, please. Charles Whitford obeyed without meeting her eyes. Margaret Ellis watched Megan pass, not with anger, with disappointment. The kind that cuts deeper because it has no performance in it. Megan felt that look and hated it. When she reached Nathan's row, she stopped. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she leaned down, voice low. Whatever you think is going to happen, don't make it worse for yourself. Nathan turned from the window. For myself? His voice was gentle, almost curious. Megan's lips tightened. People misunderstand things in the air. Stress, cabin pressure, bad timing. You start throwing accusations around and it can come back on you. Margaret's head lifted. Nathan looked at Megan for a long second.
Is that advice?
Megan's eyes hardened. It's reality. Nathan nodded once. Then I hope reality is documented. Megan straightened as if the words had struck her. The aircraft dipped through a thin layer of cloud. The cabin trembled. A child cried somewhere far behind first class. The engine shifted tone, deeper now, preparing for landing. In the galley, Lily checked every latch twice. Her hands were still unsteady, but she did the work carefully. She placed the sealed tray inside a separate chill compartment, then took a photo of the storage label with her crew device. Megan saw her.
Are you serious?
Lily did not look away this time. Yes, you're making yourself part of this. I already am. Megan stepped closer, voice sharp. You think he'll protect you? You think passengers care about crew after landing? They go home. We stay here. We deal with the consequences. Lily swallowed. Then maybe we should stop creating them. The words were small, but they landed. Megan stared at her, stunned by the simple force of them. The landing gear lowered beneath the floor with a heavy mechanical groan. The sound rolled through the cabin like thunder under metal. Passengers looked out the windows. Phones appeared in hands. The normal ritual of arrival began. But Nathan did not check messages. He did not text. He waited. That was what disturbed Megan most. He waited like a man who knew someone else was already moving. The plane crossed over the runway lights. White lines rushed beneath them. For one breath, the cabin seemed suspended. Then the wheels touched down, a hard chirp of rubber. The engines roared. Bodies leaned forward, then settled back as the aircraft slowed. No one clapped, no one spoke, not in first class. The taxi to the gate felt longer than the flight. Megan stood at the front after the seatbelt sign turned off, forcing herself into position by the door. Her shoulders squared, her chin lifted. She had done this hundreds of times. Thank you for flying Crown Pacific. Smile. Have a wonderful evening in Los Angeles. Smile. Safe travels. Smile, but her eyes kept drifting toward the jet bridge window, gate 14. She had seen the number when they parked. Her stomach tightened again. The jet bridge connected with a dull thud. The cabin door opened. Cool terminal air slipped inside, carrying the smell of concrete, coffee, and fuel. Passengers began to stand. Charles Whitford walked past Megan first. He paused. For a second, she expected him to say nothing. He had that kind of face, polite, careful, safe. But he looked at her and said quietly, I hope you tell the truth. Then he stepped into the jet bridge. Megan's smile froze. Margaret came next. She moved slowly, one hand on her small leather bag. When she reached Megan, she stopped too. Young woman, Margaret said, not unkindly. Power is not the same as character. Megan's throat tightened. Margaret did not wait for a reply. She turned to Nathan, who had just stood from seat 1A. Take care of yourself, Mr. Brooks. Nathan nodded. You too, Mrs. Ellis. Megan blinked. He remembered her name. Of course he did. Nathan lifted his bag over one shoulder and walked toward the door. Calm, tall, unhurried. Megan leaned slightly toward him as he reached the threshold. Better luck next time, Mr. Hoodie. The words were quiet enough that only he and Lily heard them. Maybe wear a suit if you want people to take you seriously. Nathan stopped. Not suddenly, just enough. He turned his head and looked at her. His eyes were not angry. That frightened her more than anger would have. Megan, he said softly. Her face changed. She had never told him her name, not directly. He glanced once at the name tag, then back to her. You should read the manifest more carefully. Megan's mouth went dry. Excuse me? Nathan's voice stayed low. Wealth doesn't always wear a suit, and authority doesn't always need to raise its voice. Then he stepped into the jet bridge. Lily stood behind Megan, frozen. Megan rolled her eyes, but the gesture was weak. Another passenger blocked her view for a moment. She forced herself back into routine. Thank you for flying with us. Have a good night. Thank you. Then she heard voices from the jet bridge, not passenger voices, form voices, male, controlled, serious. She leaned slightly toward the open door and froze. 10 feet beyond the aircraft stood a small group waiting under the harsh white jet bridge lights. 2 airport operations managers, a woman in a Navy suit holding a tablet, 2 security officers, another man from corporate legal, and in the center stood Andrew Whitman, silver hair, dark suit, no smile, the chief executive officer of Crown Pacific Airlines. Every employee knew his face. Megan's pulse jumped so hard she felt it in her throat. Andrew was not looking at Charles Whitford, not at Margaret, not at any of the passengers who looked like they belonged. He was walking directly toward Nathan Brooks. Nathan stopped in front of him. Andrew reached out his hand. "Nathan," Andrew said, his voice low and heavy. "I cannot begin to apologize for what happened on my aircraft." Megan's breath stopped. On my aircraft. The words moved through her like ice. Lily stepped into the doorway behind her and whispered almost without sound, "Oh my God." Andrew turned his head. For the first time, his eyes found Megan Carter, not as a crew member, not as a person in charge, as someone being evaluated. "Miss Carter," he said. Megan forced her feet to move. "Mr. Whitman, I can explain." Andrew's face did not change.
You will.
Then he looked back at Nathan. "And you will do it right here." Andrew Whitman did not raise his voice, and that made the jet bridge feel even smaller. The last passengers slowed as they passed. Some looked back. A few pretended not to. Airport noise hummed around them, rolling bags, distant announcements, engines fading beyond the glass. But inside that narrow corridor, every sound seemed to step aside. Megan Carter stood near the aircraft door with her hands clasped in front of her uniform. Professional posture, perfect hair, a face trying hard not to crack. "Mr. Whitman," she said, "this was a catering issue. We received a defective tray. I was about to file a report." Lily Brooks stood behind her. Her eyes dropped. Nathan noticed. Andrew did too. He turned slightly toward the woman in the Navy suit. The woman lifted her tablet. Her name was Diane Foster, senior counsel for Crown Pacific. Gray eyes, no wasted movements. She had spent 20 years listening to people lie in clean hallways. "Miss Carter," Diane said, "the cabin inquiry was opened before landing. The tray was flagged after Mr. Brooks sent photographs and video directly to Mr. Whitman." Megan swallowed. "That does not mean I did anything wrong." Andrew looked at her. "No one said it did."
Yet.
That last word landed hard. Megan's fingers tightened. Nathan stood beside Andrew, silent. His bag rested on one shoulder. His hoodie looked almost out of place beside the suits and badges around him. That should have made him look smaller. It did not. The quiet around him had weight. Megan felt it now. Andrew turned to the operations manager, a broad man named Kevin Hall.
Where is the tray?
Kevin looked toward the aircraft. Preserved into forward galley chill compartment. Junior Attendant Brooks secured it after the cabin message went out. Andrew looked at Lily. Lily straightened, surprised. "Thank you, Miss Brooks." 2 simple words. Lily's face changed. Not pride. Relief. The kind that comes when someone finally recognizes the cost of doing the right thing. Megan saw it and hated it. She spoke quickly. "Lily is new. She may have misunderstood standard procedure." Lily looked up. "No, I didn't." Megan turned. "Lily." The warning in her voice was sharp. But Lily did not step back this time. "I preserved the tray because it smelled spoiled. The chicken had visible mold. The passenger had not touched it. And I heard you say it came from what we had left." Megan's face went pale. Andrew's eyes moved back to Megan. "You said that?" Megan shook her head. "That is being taken out of context." Nathan finally spoke. "What is the correct context for serving mold?" No one moved. The sentence was not loud. It did not need to be. Megan looked at him. "You think you can just stand here and ruin my career?" Nathan's gaze stayed steady. "No," he paused. "I think you made choices, and choices have records." Diane tapped her tablet. "They do. We are also reviewing galley service logs, catering scans, and aircraft waste handling records from JFK. Megan blinked. "JFK?" Andrew answered. Yes, where the tray originated. Megan's breath caught just slightly, not enough for most people to notice. But Nathan noticed. So did Diane. So did Lily. Kevin Hall glanced at his phone as a message came in. He read it, then looked at Andrew. Catering control just confirmed something. Andrew did not take his eyes off Megan. Say it. Kevin hesitated. The item matching that meal was not assigned to this flight service inventory. It was scanned earlier as a rejected sample from a storage audit. Diane's tone stayed flat. Rejected? For what reason? Kevin looked down again. Visible spoilage. Marked for disposal. Megan's mouth opened. That is impossible. Andrew stepped closer. Is it? I served what was loaded. Kevin shook his head. No, Mom. According to the preliminary scan, that tray should never have been on the aircraft. Megan pointed toward the plane. Then catering made the mistake. Maybe, Diane said. Her voice was calm. But we also have the cabin video from Mr. Brooks showing you in the galley after service. And we have Miss Brooks's statement that the item came from a discard bin. Megan turned toward Lily. Her eyes were hot now.
You gave a statement?
Lily's voice was quiet. I told the truth. Megan laughed, but it shook.
The truth? You don't know anything about this job.
Margaret Ellis had been standing near the jet bridge exit, waiting with her small bag in hand. She had not left. Now she stepped closer. She knows enough to be decent. Megan spun toward her. Mom, this is an internal matter. Margaret's eyes did not blink. No. It stopped being internal when you put that tray in front of another human being. The words seemed to settle over the group. Even Andrew looked at her with a brief, respectful nod. Megan's face tightened with humiliation. Andrew turned to Diane. Have airport operations secure the galley waste and crew service carts. Already requested, Diane said. Kevin added, LAX airport security is on the way to the aircraft now. Megan's head snapped toward him. Security? Andrew's voice remained controlled. Food safety incidents on commercial aircraft are treated seriously, Miss Carter, especially when there may be evidence mishandling. I didn't mishandle anything. Diane looked at her. Then you will have no issue remaining available for questioning. Megan stepped back half a pace. I have union representation. I want a representative. You will have that right, Diane said. And you will also surrender your company tablet and crew device for preservation, per policy. Megan clutched her phone instinctively. Not my personal phone. Diane's eyes narrowed. No one asked for it yet. Yet. Again that word. Megan looked at Nathan. And for the first time, beneath the anger,
there was fear. Who are you?
The question came out rough, smaller than she intended. Nathan did not answer immediately. Andrew did.
This is Nathan Brooks.
Megan's eyes flicked between them. I know his name. Andrew's jaw tightened. Apparently not enough. The terminal lights buzzed above them. Somewhere behind the wall, a baggage cart beeped as it reversed. Ordinary airport life continued, while Megan's world began to tilt. Andrew continued. Mr. Brooks is the chief executive officer of Summit Freight Group. Megan blinked once, then again. The name reached her slowly, not as a person, as a headline, a business article. A merger briefing she had ignored because it had nothing to do with cabin service. Summit Freight. Her lips parted. Andrew's voice lowered. The company acquiring controlling interest in Crown Pacific tomorrow morning. The silence after that was total. Lily brought one hand to her mouth. Kevin looked away. Diane did not blink. Megan stared at Nathan as if his hoodie had changed shape in front of her. You're. Nathan finished softly. The man you thought didn't belong in seat 1A. Megan had no answer. Her mind ran backward through every word, every glance, every smirk, every insult. Mr. Hoodie. Upgrade from coach, first-class standards. Now they stood around her like witnesses. Andrew's voice cut through the silence. Miss Carter, effective immediately. You are removed from duty, pending investigation. Megan's shoulders dropped. You can't do that? Andrew looked at her for a long moment. I already have. 2 airport security officers appeared at the far end of the jet bridge. They walked toward the group with measured steps. No rush, no drama. Just procedure. And that made it worse. Megan looked at Nathan one last time. Her voice cracked. You could have said who you were. Nathan's expression did not change. You could have treated me like I mattered before you knew. Megan Carter stared at the two security officers as they stopped beside her, close enough to be clear, far enough not to touch. For a moment, she looked less like a senior purser and more like someone who had stepped into a room after the door had already locked behind her. "This is ridiculous," she said. Her voice was still sharp, but the strength had thinned. Andrew Whitman did not answer right away. He looked past her toward the open aircraft door, where airport personnel had begun moving into the galley with gloves and sealed containers. The normal rhythm of arrival had turned into something colder, cleaner, official. Diane Foster stepped forward. "Miss Carter, you are not under arrest, but you are being removed from active duty, and we are preserving evidence related to a potential passenger safety incident."
Evidence?
Megan laughed once, too loud for the space. "It was a bad meal. That's all. A disgusting mistake from catering, maybe, but a bad meal." Nathan Brooks watched her carefully. He had seen people do this before. Shrink the harm, rename it, make the victim sound dramatic, make the act sound ordinary. It was one of the oldest ways power protected itself. Diane looked down at her tablet. "We will let the investigation determine that." Megan turned toward Lily. Tell them it was loaded with the other trays." Lily stood near the aircraft door, pale but upright. Her eyes moved to Nathan, then to Andrew, then back to Megan. "I can't say that." Megan's expression twisted. "Can't or won't?" Lily's voice was quiet. "Won't." The word was small, but it ended something. Megan shook her head. "You think this makes you brave? You think they're going to reward you for turning on your own crew?" Lily's eyes filled, but she did not look away. "I'm not turning on the crew. I'm protecting a passenger." Andrew's face shifted slightly. It was the first time since the confrontation began that something like sadness crossed it. Because that was what the entire system should have done from the beginning. Protect the passenger, not the pride of the person in uniform. Kevin Hall returned from the aircraft, removing one glove as he walked. "Andrew." Everyone turned. Kevin held a printed inventory sheet in one hand and his phone in the other. Operations found something in the service cart log. Megan folded her arms. Of course they did. Kevin ignored her. The regular first-class chicken meals were accounted for. All were loaded in sealed packaging. The tray served to seat 1A was not from the assigned catering batch. Diane looked up. Where did it enter the chain? Kevin's jaw tightened. That's the problem. It didn't. Not through catering. Megan's lips parted. Andrew's voice lowered. "Explain." Kevin glanced at Megan, then back to Andrew. "There's a disposal container in the JFK crew lounge used for rejected sample trays after catering audits. The label code on the container found in the galley waste matches that category." The air changed. Even the security officers looked at each other. Megan took a step back. "No, that is not possible." Diane's fingers moved across the tablet. "Are you saying the tray may have been removed from a disposal container before departure?" Kevin nodded. "That is what the early scan suggests." Megan's voice rose. "Suggests, not proves." Nathan spoke softly. "Then preserve the records." Diane nodded. "Already underway." Megan looked at Nathan with something close to hatred now.
You don't know what this job is like.
Nathan held her gaze. "I know it does not include serving waste to passengers." The words hit clean. No shouting. No drama.
Just truth.
Megan's face flushed. "I didn't serve waste." Kevin looked at his phone again. His face changed. Diane noticed first. "What is it?" Kevin hesitated. "The catering safety team at JFK just sent a note." Andrew stepped closer. "Read it." Kevin swallowed. The rejected tray in question was flagged for biological disposal after 3 days in storage. Visible spoilage present. Do not return to service. Silence. The jet bridge lights hummed overhead. Somewhere beyond the glass, a plane taxied in the dark with its lights blinking red and white. Megan's mouth went dry. 3 days, Margaret Ellis said from near the wall. Her voice shook now, not with fear, with anger. "You served that man food that had been sitting spoiled for 3 days?" Megan spun toward her. "I didn't know that." Diane looked at Megan. "Then how did it end up on your cart?" Megan shook her head quickly. "I don't know. Somebody made a mistake." Lily spoke before she could stop herself. You said it was what we had left. Megan turned. Stop repeating that. Because you said it. I was frustrated. You were laughing. Megan froze. Lily's face changed the moment she said it, as if the memory had finally become impossible to carry quietly. You were laughing in the galley after you served it. You told me not to write a report. Megan stepped toward her. Careful. Security moved half a step closer. Not touching. Just present. The movement was enough. Megan stopped. Andrew looked at Lily. Miss Brooks, did Miss Carter instruct you not to report a possible safety issue? Lily's breath trembled. Yes. Megan whispered, Lily, don't. Lily closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, she looked older. Yes, she said again. Diane typed something into the tablet. Andrew's jaw tightened. Megan's voice cracked. I have been with this airline for 15 years. Andrew looked at her. I know. I've hawked holidays, emergencies, medical diversions, drunk passengers. I've cleaned blood out of seats. I've stayed calm when people screamed in my face. For the first time, Megan sounded almost human, tired, frightened, cornered. And for a brief second, Nathan saw something under the cruelty. Not innocence, pain, maybe years of being overlooked, maybe bitterness that had hardened into contempt, maybe a woman who had mistaken endurance for permission to hurt someone else. But pain did not erase harm. Andrew's voice softened, but only slightly. None of that gives you the right to degrade a passenger. Megan's eyes shone. He looked like he was trying to prove something. Nathan looked at her. No, he said. You decided that. Megan turned toward him. You sat there in that hoodie like you wanted people to underestimate you. Nathan's voice stayed level. My clothes were not an invitation. The sentence stopped her. Margaret bowed her head slightly, as if the words deserved space. Diane received another message. She read it, and her face tightened. Andrew noticed. Diane? She looked at Megan. There is also a social media concern. Megan's breathing changed. What social media concern? Diane turned the tablet outward, not fully, just enough for Andrew to see. A screenshot, private crew group, posted before departure, a photo of Nathan in seat 1A taken from the galley. Megan stared, her face drained. Diane read the caption aloud, each word measured. Guy in 1A thinks a hoodie makes him important. Let's see how first class his stomach really is. The jet bridge went completely still. Nathan did not move. Lily covered her mouth. Margaret whispered, Dear God. Andrew's face went cold in a way no one had seen yet. Miss Carter, he said. Megan shook her head. It was a joke. No one spoke. She looked around, desperate now. It was a private group. Crew vent. People say things. Diane's voice was flat. Before or after you placed a spoiled tray in front of him? Megan's lips trembled. I didn't think he would eat it. The words escaped. Then she heard them. So did everyone else. Andrew stared at her. You didn't think he would eat it. Megan's eyes widened. That's not what I meant. Nathan's voice came quietly from beside him. But it is what happened. The security officers stepped closer. This time, one of them spoke. Mom, we're going to escort you to the operations office now. Megan looked at Nathan. For a second, all the sharpness left her face. You could stop this. Nathan's expression did not change, but his voice slowed. No, I can tell the truth. That is not the same thing. The officer gestured toward the terminal. Megan did not move at first. Then her shoulders dropped. The woman who had controlled the aisle now walked through the jet bridge under escort. No applause, no shouting, just the sound of her shoes against metal. And behind her, Nathan Brooks stood in silence, understanding something he had always known. Accountability does not heal everything, but without it, nothing heals at all. Megan Carter was escorted through the terminal and out without handcuffs, and somehow that made it worse. People did not stare because they knew the story. They stared because they recognized the shape of shame. The stiff shoulders, the pale face, the uniform that no longer looked like authority, but evidence. She walked between the two security officers with her chin lifted, trying to keep the old version of herself alive. The version that owned the aisle. The version that could smile at one passenger and cut another down with a whisper. But every step toward the operations office stripped that version away. Behind her, at gate 14, Andrew Whitman stood with Nathan Brooks. Diane Foster, Kevin Hall, and Lily Brooks. The aircraft door remained open. Airport staff moved in and out with sealed bags and gloves. The forward galley had been secured. The service cart had been photographed. The tray had been placed in a temperature-controlled container. It no longer looked like a meal. It looked like a case. Andrew rubbed a hand across his mouth. He looked older now than he had when he arrived. Nathan noticed. For the first time that night, Andrew was not the polished chief executive on training posters. He was a man staring at the damage inside his own company. "I'm sorry," Andrew said again. Nathan adjusted the strap of his bag. "You've already said that, I know. But I don't know what else to say." Nathan looked toward the aircraft, then "Don't stop at saying it." Andrew turned to him. Nathan's voice remained calm, but there was weight beneath it. A company teaches people what they can get away with. Not in one memo, not in one meeting. Over time, through silence, through who gets protected, through which complaints disappear. Lily looked down when he said that. Andrew saw it. "Miss Brooks." She stiffened. "Yes, sir? Have complaints disappeared?" Lily's eyes moved to Diane, then to Andrew. She was young, but she understood the size of the question. "Sometimes," she said. "Not always. But enough that people stopped filing them." Andrew's face tightened. "What kind of complaints?" Lily hesitated. "Service bias. Retaliation after passengers complain. Senior crew mocking passengers in private groups, things like that." Diane typed quickly on her tablet. Andrew's voice dropped. "And supervisors knew?" Lily took a breath. "Some did." The answer hit harder than accusation. Because it was not dramatic. It was ordinary. And ordinary wrongdoing is often the hardest to face. Nathan watched Andrew absorb it. He did not enjoy the man's discomfort. This was not revenge. Revenge burns fast. Accountability moves slower. It asks people to look at what they built and what they allowed. Kevin's phone rang. He stepped aside and answered. His face changed almost immediately. "Yes, send it to Diane. Now." He ended the call and looked toward Andrew. JFK security pulled preliminary footage from the crew lounge. Diane looked up. "Already?" Kevin nodded. The lounge camera caught Megan entering the janitorial storage room before boarding. She removed a bottle of industrial galley degreaser. Lily's eyes widened. Andrew went still. Nathan's gaze sharpened. Kevin continued. "There's more." She also entered the waste holding area. She opened a disposal container. Diane's fingers stopped moving. "The rejected tray?" Kevin nodded. "Looks that way." The terminal around them kept moving. A family hurried past with tired children. A man argued softly into his phone. A gate agent announced a delayed flight to Seattle. The world did what the world does. It kept going. But for the people standing at gate 14, the night had changed shape. Andrew spoke slowly. "Are we saying she may have tampered with the food?" Diane answered carefully. "We are saying there is enough to notify airport police and preserve all evidence." Nathan looked through the glass toward the dark runway. One bite. No one responded. They all understood. One bite could have meant chemical burns, a medical emergency over the desert, a diversion, a death, maybe not likely, but possible enough to make the silence heavy. Lily covered her mouth and turned away. Andrew's voice softened. "Miss Brooks." She shook her head, trying to steady herself. "I should have stopped it sooner." Nathan turned toward her. "You stopped what you could when you understood what it was." Lily's eyes filled. "I was afraid." Nathan nodded. "Fear is honest. Staying silent after you know the truth is the part that changes a person." Lily looked at him, and something in her face loosened.
Not relief exactly, but a small permission to breathe.
Diane's tablet chimed. She read the update. "The lab team at LAX has the tray. They'll run a rapid screening first."
Full results later.
Andrew nodded. Then another alert came in. Diane's brow changed. Nathan noticed.
"What is it?"
Diane looked at Andrew first. "We pulled metadata from the screenshot of the private crew group. There are comments under Megan's post." Andrew's face darkened. "How many?" "At least 20 visible in the first capture, some from senior staff." Lily whispered, "God." Diane scrolled. A few encouraged her. One wrote, "Teach him where he belongs." Another wrote, "Make the upgrade crowd regret it." Andrew closed his eyes. For a second, he looked like a man hearing the voice of his company. and not recognizing it. Nathan spoke quietly. That's not one person, no. Andrew opened his eyes. No, it isn't. At the operations office down the hall, Megan sat alone in a plastic chair under fluorescent lights. Her phone had been taken for preservation after Diane requested legal hold procedures. Her crew badge lay on the desk in front of her. It looked smaller than she remembered. A man in an airport police jacket entered the room. Detective Aaron Mills, late 40s, calm face, notebook in hand. Miss Carter. Megan crossed her arms. Am I under arrest? Not at this time. That phrase did not comfort her. He sat across from her. I need to ask you about the food tray served to passenger Nathan Brooks. It was a catering mistake. Detective Mills watched her for a moment. Did you remove a discarded tray from the crew lounge at JFK? Megan looked away. No. The detective turned a page in his notebook. We have video we need to review with you. Her eyes flicked back. Video can be misunderstood. It can be, he said. That's why we ask questions. His calm irritated her. It gave her nothing to push against. Down the hall, Andrew's phone buzzed. He read the message and his face went cold. Diane asked, "What now?" Andrew looked at Nathan. Rapid screening came back. The spinach tested positive for industrial cleaning solvent. Lily whispered, "No." Kevin lowered his head. Nathan was silent. Andrew's voice was barely above breath. Higher concentration on the spinach than the chicken. Diane's expression tightened. That suggests targeted application. Andrew looked toward the operations office. Megan had said she did not think he would eat it. Now those words sounded different. Not careless, planned. Nathan stood very still. For most of the night, he had held his anger behind a wall of discipline. But now, for the first time, something moved across his face. Not rage, not fear, a deep, quiet grief. Because the worst part was not that someone had underestimated him. It was that someone had been willing to endanger a life just to put a person back in the place she believed he belonged. Andrew saw it. Nathan, I need to ask you something. Nathan turned. Do you still want to move forward tomorrow? The acquisition, the board meeting, the future of Crown Pacific. Nathan looked toward the gate windows, where the aircraft sat under floodlights like a body under examination.
Yes.
Andrew blinked. After this, Nathan's voice was steady. Especially after this, Diane looked at him.
Why?
Nathan paused. Because walking away punishes the company. Taking responsibility changes it. The words stayed in the air. Andrew understood then that Nathan Brooks had not come to destroy Crown Pacific. He had come to own what others refused to fix. And somewhere down the hall, Megan Carter was beginning to understand that the man she had mocked in seat 1A had not simply exposed her. He had exposed the system that made her think she could do it. Morning came over Los Angeles without asking permission from what had happened the night before. The runways filled with movement again. Aircraft lifted, aircraft landed. Fuel trucks moved in slow lines. Ground crews signaled with bright orange wands. The system kept working. It always did. But inside a glass conference room overlooking the airport, the system was no longer invisible. Andrew Whitman stood at the head of the table. Around him sat the board of Crown Pacific Airlines. Men and women who had spent decades building reputations, networks, careers, people who understood risk, numbers, public perception. But what sat in front of them now was not a balance sheet. It was a failure. Nathan Brooks sat at the far end of the table. No hoodie, no casual posture, a dark suit, clean lines, still calm, still controlled. The difference was not the clothes. It was that now everyone saw what had always been there. Authority. The room was quiet except for the muted television mounted on the wall. A news headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Airline employee under investigation in suspected food tampering case involving major logistics executive. Andrew muted it. Then he looked at the board. You have all read the preliminary reports. No one answered, because they had. The photos, the tray, the mold, the chemical report, the internal messages, the social media posts, the crew statements, the surveillance footage. Not one piece of it stood alone. Together, it told a story the company could not deny. Andrew turned toward Nathan. I want you to speak. Nathan did not rush. He stood slowly, placing his hands lightly on the table. Outside the glass, a cargo plane lifted into the sky. Its engines roared, then faded. Last night, Nathan said, I boarded one of your aircraft as a passenger. No one moved. I was served food that had been removed from a disposal container and contaminated with industrial cleaning solvent. The words sounded colder in daylight, more real, more permanent. Nathan continued. The employee responsible had been publicly mocking me before departure, encouraging others to do the same, and she believed she would not face consequences. A board member shifted. Another looked down. Nathan walked a few steps toward the window. The problem is not one person. He turned back. The problem is the environment that made her feel safe doing it. The sentence landed harder than any accusation because it pointed beyond her, into the system. Andrew nodded once. He understood. One of the board members leaned forward.
Are you suggesting this is a culture issue?
Nathan met his eyes. I am stating it. Silence. Another board member spoke, more carefully. And you still intend to proceed with the acquisition? Nathan did not hesitate.
Yes.
A few heads lifted, surprise, confusion, even concern. Andrew watched him closely. Why? Nathan paused. Because walking away does not fix the problem. He let the words settle. Then he continued. Control does. The room absorbed that. Nathan returned to the table and placed a folder in front of Andrew. Inside were documents already prepared. Andrew opened it. The acquisition agreement had been updated. New clauses, new oversight structures, new authority. Nathan spoke again. Under the new structure, Summit Freight will assume controlling interest in Crown Pacific, effective immediately after board approval. He looked at each person at the table. There will be a full audit of all crew conduct reports for the past 15 years. All internal complaint systems will be reviewed. Anonymous reporting will be expanded. And any employee found participating in that social media group will be terminated. No one argued. Because they had seen the screenshots. Because the evidence was already public. Because the alternative was worse. One board member cleared his throat. And the legal exposure? Diane Foster, seated near Andrew, answered. The company faces significant liability, but proactive action reduces long-term damage. Andrew closed the folder slowly. Then he looked at Nathan. You're not just buying the airline. Nathan shook his head. No, I'm rebuilding it. The words were not dramatic. They were deliberate. Outside the room, the airport moved through its morning routine. Inside, something shifted, not quickly, not cleanly, but undeniably. At the operations office down the hall, Megan Carter sat in the same plastic chair she had occupied hours earlier. The fluorescent lights had not changed, but she had. Her uniform was gone, replaced with a plain gray sweatshirt provided after her belongings were processed. Her hands rested in her lap. Still, Detective Aaron Mills sat across from her again. We have reviewed the footage, he said. Megan did not look up. And the chemical analysis. She closed her eyes. The solvent concentration was high enough to cause injury if ingested. Her breath caught. I told you, I didn't think he would eat it. The detective watched her. That statement does not help you. Megan's voice broke slightly. It was a joke. He shook his head. This was not a joke. She looked up at him, eyes red. You don't understand how people talk on those groups. He met her gaze. I understand intent. The room went quiet. Megan looked at her hands. For the first time since the flight, there was no one to perform for. No passengers. No crew. No audience.
Just consequences.
Back in the conference room, Andrew stood, all in favor. Hands rose. One by one. No hesitation now. No delay. The decision was made. Crown Pacific Airlines would move forward under new control. New leadership. New accountability. Nathan remained standing for a moment longer. Then he sat. The meeting did not end with applause. It ended with understanding. Outside, the morning sun climbed higher. Planes continued to lift into the sky. Passengers boarded without knowing what had changed overnight. But something had. Because somewhere in the system, a line had been drawn. Not by policy, not by training. By a moment where someone refused to accept being treated as less. And by the people who chose to stand beside that truth instead of looking away. Respect had not come automatically. It had been forced into the open. And now it would not be optional anymore. Weeks passed, but the story did not fade. It spread across news stations, business journals, travel forums, quiet conversations between people who had flown that route for years and suddenly looked at uniforms differently. The headlines changed tone over time. At first, outrage, then investigation, then something deeper, accountability. Inside Crown Pacific Airlines, change did not arrive like a speech. It arrived like pressure, slow, constant, unavoidable. Training sessions were rewritten, complaint systems reopened, old reports resurfaced. Names appeared where silence had once lived. Lily Brooks stood in a briefing room with other attendants, listening to a new supervisor explain updated protocols. Her posture was straighter now, not because she felt safe, because she understood what courage had cost her. Some of the faces around her avoided eye contact. Others nodded quietly. A few looked relieved. For the first time, the rules sounded like they meant something. Respect is not optional, the supervisor said. The room stayed silent, but the silence was different. It was not fear. It was recognition. Across the country in a federal courtroom, Megan Carter sat at a wooden table beside her attorney. No uniform, no aisle, no control. Just a woman facing the full weight of her choices. The evidence had been presented piece by piece. The tray, the lab results, the security footage, the private messages, the caption, the comments, her own words. I didn't think he would eat it. The courtroom had gone still when that line was read, not because it was dramatic, because it was honest. And honesty, in the wrong moment, reveals everything. Megan did not cry when the verdict came. She sat still, the same stillness Nathan had carried on the plane. But this time, it held something different. Not control, consequence. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Cameras lifted, questions shouted. The story had become larger than one flight, larger than one airline. It had become a reflection of how quickly people judge, of how easily power is abused when it goes unchecked, and of how dangerous it is when respect becomes conditional. Nathan Brooks stood a few steps away from the crowd, speaking quietly with Andrew Whitman. No cameras on him, no statement prepared. He had never wanted attention. He had wanted change. Andrew looked at him. You didn't have to stay involved in all of this. Nathan's eyes moved across the courthouse steps, people passing, reporters arguing, a city continuing forward. Yes, I did. Andrew nodded slowly. You changed the company. Nathan shook his head. I forced it to see itself. That was harder. Across the street, a small group of former passengers stood watching. Margaret Ellis among them. She had followed the story from home, read every update, not out of curiosity, out of principle. When Nathan noticed her, he walked over. She smiled the moment she saw him. You look different. Nathan gave a small smile. Different clothes. Margaret shook her head. No, different weight. He understood. Some things lift when truth is spoken. Others settle. He had both now. Thank you, Margaret said. Nathan paused. For what? For not staying quiet. The words were simple, but they held everything. Nathan looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Across the runway that afternoon, a Crown Pacific aircraft lifted into the sky. The engines roared. The wheels tucked away. The plane climbed into the same sky where everything had begun. Inside, passengers settled into their seats. Flight attendants moved through the aisle. Calm, professional, careful. And somewhere in seat 1A sat another traveler, maybe wearing a suit, maybe wearing a hoodie. It did not matter anymore. No one questioned it, because something had changed. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Enough that people thought twice. Enough that silence was harder. Enough that respect had weight. Nathan stood beside Margaret, watching the aircraft disappear into the distance. He did not feel victory. He felt clarity. Power is not what you show. It is what you do when no one expects anything from you. And respect is not something you earn from appearance. It is something you owe to every person in front of you. That lesson had cost someone everything and taught many others what should never have been forgotten. If this story stayed with you, take a moment to support it. Leave a like so more people can hear it. Subscribe so you never miss the next story that matters. And in the comments, write 3 simple words that remind everyone what truly matters. Respect always wins.